Suppose a university has a cutoff a score of 36.
Yeah. Sure.
And we get somewhere around 37 or 38. That doesn't really mean that we are getting into the college, right?
That's absolutely correct.
But is there any higher chance if we get like more than what is required and we apply?
Yes, you're definitely increasing your probability. Let's say the typical offers are 36, you're applying with a 39, right? Assuming you have an interesting profile as well, and you've done relevant things, you're giving yourself the best possible shot. But does that mean that you're guaranteeing yourself a place? No. More questions?
Say that the requirement is 36 and you get a PG of 35, then will the university take?
They could. Just because you're a point off doesn't mean that you're automatically rejected. They just think typically an average that we take is 36. You'll all know how averages are computed, right? There will be people slightly below. Let's say you're at a 35, but you've done some very interesting things or something very relevant. They may like it. But typically, if that average score is 36 and you're applying with a 30, perhaps it's not going to work out. So I get that you want to be ambitious, and let's say there's a school you really love and you feel you have a lot in your profile that merits you applying. Maybe one such school, and not to be very optimistic about that makes sense. But if you fill your 5 offers saying, you know what, I'm special and I know what I've done, and expect to convert such a far gap, I wouldn't do that. I don't think it would be good. So the main takeaways from this is your personal statement should not be customized to any one school. Use it to make a really strong case for what you bring to the table, right? Don't repeat information that your recommender would give us or stuff that we already know just by your filling the form. We want to know who you are. By reading it, I want to feel like, yes, I know this kid, they really belong here, they're going to add a lot of value, they've made the effort to understand the course. So we're looking for that sort of specificity. Choose your recommender wisely, and that person can say a lot about you that you can't say about yourself. And in addition to that, obviously you want to start working on this as early as possible, because the real deadline is around the corner. And the bit of bad news is the IB scores still matter. Anyone considering the US? Okay, wow. Nobody in the 12th, however.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
Which are the countries that the 12 are thinking of? Which are the countries?
Mostly UK and Canada.
UK and Canada.
Got it. But the 11th grade is very bullish in the US. Okay, fantastic. Just if I could raise, whoever wants to raise their hand and share what they think they may want to study in college. This is for the 11th grade.
Business.
Okay, do you have any colleges in mind? Not yet.
Computer science.
Computer science. Computer science engineering or computer science?
Computer science.
Got it. Anybody else? So we know we want to go to the US, but we don't know what we want to do there. Okay. The good news about the US is, unlike the UK, it's a very liberal degree in that you get to go there, you get to try things out, and then customize your path forward. That said, that doesn't mean that you can take 2 courses and everything and graduate with a whole bunch of nothing. You still have to choose a major, you still have to focus in a particular area and fulfill all the requirements of that area, but you get to explore other subjects as well. So for instance, I have a psychology major, specializing in developmental psychology. I have a degree in communication from the Annenberg School for Communication, which is a graduate school, and I was offered a chance for the degree at the undergraduate level. Of course, I had to apply for it. And a degree in marketing from Wharton. So you get the ability to customize what you want to do. But you still, of course, after your second year, which is your sophomore year, need to decide on a path and see it through. You can also customize it to majors and minors. So you may like certain things more and declare that as your major, but at the same time you may have a diverse interest, like you said, I want to do computer science, but maybe you're interested in a few management subjects as well. And you could do that as your minor. So it's interesting that you can mix and match a lot. It is typically a 4-year undergraduate degree, unlike the UK degree, which is typically 3 years. Here, like the UCAS to some extent, we have something called the Common App. There are close to 600 plus schools that all belong to the Common App. So you can input your details once and it goes to all these schools. But in addition to that, all the schools that are on the Common Application also have their own forms and essays to fill. Plus, there are certain universities that will have their own application process. So in terms of quantum of work, the US application process is a little bit more rigorous than the UK application process is. Here again, they're evaluating you holistically. They'll be looking at your grades from the 9th to the 12th, right? Looking at your predicted scores, looking at actuals, your SATs, ACT, SAT subject sats, if you've taken the AP scores, all of that comes into play. What are your extracurriculars? How do you spend your time? What do you do for fun? All of that is part of the application process. Thank you. And to some extent, you can apply to unlimited colleges. The Common App allows 20 applications. This is not to count the ones that have individual application forms. So the University of California schools, and I'm sure you've all heard about UC Berkeley, UCLA, has its own separate portal that's not part of the Common App. So you can pretty much apply to an unlimited number of schools. Of course, I wouldn't advocate it because each school is a lot of work, but theoretically you could. There are various rounds of application. For any of the 12th graders who even at a slightly later stage may think of the US, the regular decision round is still open. Certain schools have a second early decision round, which is binding, which is typically Jan 1st. I'm not getting into too many details there because I don't see the 12th graders interested. And for the 11th graders, that would be a conversation for a different day. The US doesn't have conditional offers, which means if they give out an offer, right, and hopefully if you get a score within the realm of reason, within close enough to your predicted score, the offer stands. But in the last 3 years, they noticed there was a lot of grade inflation. So students were getting predicted scores of, let's say, 42. And on the actual IB, they were getting a 30, or a 32, or a 35. So schools started reacting, saying this is not the student I accepted. And schools such as NYU, University of California, San Diego would rescind offers. And now it has become common practice even in the US, if you're predicted and your actual score is fairly far off, they can also rescind the offer. So unfortunately, you have to put your head down and just give your finals the best, right? Because otherwise you're again taking too much of a risk from the university standpoint. Okay, so we covered this. This is what it consists of. So you have an application form. All applications obviously have an online application form. Most schools, I would say close to 95% of schools, will need some standardized test score. So for the 11th graders, all of you all who are thinking of going to the US, have you all finished your SAT, ACT one attempt? Okay, so that's something that you all need to get on immediately. Write that down as an action item. If you're in the 11th grade, right, and you're looking at going to the US, I would say even if you're looking at Asia and certain Canadian schools, but especially the US, you need to take one SAT or ACT attempt at the earliest. The next SAT attempt is March 9th. The next ACT, to the best of my knowledge, is Feb 9th. Okay, so whichever one that you feel you'll be well prepared for, and the idea is not to be unprepared, you need to put that on your radar and work toward it. The good news is you can get standardized tests more than once. Universities don't care how many attempts you've taken, right? You can even take 3 attempts if need be. Of course, I don't recommend it because each attempt takes time. So it's better to do 1, max 2 attempts and give it your all. But this is something that you will require. In terms of standardized tests for the 12th graders as well, have you all finished your IELTS?
How many of you? How many of you?
Okay. For the ones who haven't, don't panic. Go online, right? You can either do it at IDP or British Council, but quickly register for the IELTS because the dates are what's difficult to get. It's simple, it's just a test of English as a foreign language, which it isn't to you, right? But that is definitely going to be a requirement the minute you think of studying abroad. For the 11th graders, if you're looking at the US or Canada, then TOEFL is the preferred test. It's much like the IELTS, just seeing if you can speak, read, listen, and write in English. Okay, which I know all of you can. That's all it's testing. So next year, 2019, maybe in your summer break when you have some free time, register, get this test done. So for my 11th graders, 2 action items. SAT, ACT, and the TOEFL or the IELTS, right? So those are the things that are on your radar for the 12th graders.
Is the IELTS in any way valid in the US?
Most universities will accept it, but there are a few that are sticky. Questions about the test so far?
Is TOEFL accepted in the UK as well?
The UK is a bit sticky, they prefer the IELTS, but if you've already taken the TOEFL, then I would write to those 5 schools and see if they'll take it, and hopefully they should agree. I'm surprised no one asked me of whether they should take the SAT or ACT or both, or how does that work? Is that something you all are toying with?
Yeah.
Okay. Please don't take both. Okay? Take one test, commit to it, stay the course, and work toward it. The worst thing that I think students do is they start with one test, don't study for it seriously, don't take it seriously, are disappointed, then have heard of some friend who's taken the opposite test and done very well, and completely discount the fact that that child actually studied for the test, and quickly switch. Then it's like starting from scratch. So please don't do that unless you really have an issue with the test. Pick one. Much like schoolwork, you need to devote time to it, you need to practice. This is perhaps the first time you're sitting in one place taking a 4-hour-long test that needs complete focus. So if you're going to go in unprepared, you're not going to do well. Also set some sort of a realistic expectation. If you're at a 35 in IB, odds are you're not going to crack a 15-80 in the SAT or a 35 in ACT. That's just not going to happen. So peg it to what your capability is. Set that target, do enough practice tests. I would not go with less than 8 or 10 practice tests on test day. And then if you need, take a second attempt in the same test. Schools have no preference between the two. In the US, the ACT is just as valid as the SAT and vice versa, right? It's just that the SAT was more popular back in the day in the coasts, the ACT was more preferred in the Midwest, and that's why the SAT came to India faster. A university considers them both absolutely equal. Any more questions about the ACT, SAT?
So if you take 3 attempts, are you obliged to actually submit all 3 scores, or is it just the test again?
Most schools have a policy called score choice. So if your school has score choice, I mean the university has score choice, and let's say the second attempt was the best, that's all you need to share. If you want to super score, that is you want to use your second and third attempt, combine 1 English and 1 math to give you the highest possible score, then you naturally need to share those 2 full attempts. You can't within an attempt selectively share only English and only math. Certain schools have a policy which says you have to declare every test you've ever taken. Even though they have the policy, and I know this for a fact because I've been on committees and I interact with directors, they only look at your highest score. So there is no disadvantage. Even if for whatever reason you started with a 900 out of 1600 and went up to a 1520, they're not going to hold you to the 900. They're just going to disregard it. So don't be afraid to take it more than once, but please also don't become recreational test takers, who every time a test is offered wants to go in and take a test, right? All of this is opportunity cost. What is the most precious asset all of you have in this room? Time, right? So if you're retaking tests repeatedly and sometimes just to pander to your own